Hey guys, Kate Kennedy here with the Sweet Stamp Shop, and I have another tutorial video for you. For this video, we're going to be looking at the peerless watercolors, and these are a very unique medium. They come in sheets like this, and they have some that are done by color, so like pinks and reds and things like that, and they're the big long sheets. And then this is called the bonus pack, and you get a whole bunch of colors, and I'm not sure how many colors. But as you can see, it's basically like a piece of paper. And the color, I'm not sure of the exact way that this works, but is just kind of packed on to these papers. So when you touch them with water, they create these beautiful watercolors. And the backs kind of show you the colors that they're going to be because the fronts are very deceiving. As you can see there, they don't look anything like they do when you put them on paper. So for this first card, I'm just taking a piece of the Tim Holtz watercolor paper, and I have a kind of a selection here of blues and greens, and I'm just going to create kind of a floating background in the middle of this piece of watercolor paper. So one thing to notice about these um, watercolors is that the color only goes where there's water. So if you lay down water first and then put the color on it, it's only going to go where that water is. And you'll see that here in a second when I kind of pick the paper up and start to move it around. You'll see that it doesn't go outside of the parameters of where there's water, which is really cool because then you can kind of blend the colors together and without worrying about it running off the paper. So I really like that about watercolors in general. Most of them work the same way. These are just nice and smooth and they just blend so well. I find that it's a little bit hard to control like the intensity of the color, but that you really just can't make a mistake because they're so pretty. So I'm just taking a paper towel and kind of dabbing some of the excess. So I want it to dry pretty fast and not crinkle. So here's one that I did probably about 30 minutes ago. And I just used some pinks and reds. And you can see there's kind of a line of demarcation there where it didn't blend very well. And this is completely dry. So as you can see, you can go back over something that's already dry and blend those colors, which is really cool. Plus, these are just not very messy, which I also like about them. So I'm just going to kind of dry that off a little bit more. And what we're going to be doing with both of these backgrounds we've created is embossing on them. So you want to make sure that they're super dry or else your embossing powder will stick everywhere. I prefer to usually let these air dry, but in this case I had a video to make, so I kind of sped the process along a little bit. And there I had a little boo-boo. I don't know, I think a piece of like gelato or something got onto it, and so when I moved it off, it kind of removed the color, so I added some more back, and it kind of made a little splotchy area, but that's okay because it's watercolor and it can't be perfect. So I'm just going to trim this down to be 1/4 of an inch smaller than a standard size A2 card, and we're going to use this as our background. So I'm going to be using this stamp set called Sparkle and Shine. It's super fun. It has all these gems and sequins and stuff on it and some really cute sentiments. So first I'm going to take these two sentiments and kind of line them up to put them on my stamp block, and I'm going to stamp them together, and we're going to be embossing in gold, which I love the way that gold embossing looks on watercolor, especially on pink. So I'm going to do that first in the bottom right hand corner. I'm just going to take some gold embossing powder here. And the heat gun, because I use two different heat guns. One is like a craft gun, a craft heat thing, and it's not very hot. Like it takes a long time to emboss. And this one is my old Milwaukee embossing tool that I've had since I was literally 7 years old. And it is super hot. So it kind of makes the paper bend a little bit, but it's fine because we're gonna um, hit the back of it with it, which will make it go back to normal. So here you can see I'm just taking a bunch of these stamps. There's so many stamps on this little set, and kind of forming them around the sentiment how I like them. And I'm going to go ahead and stamp in Versamark and emboss those in gold. The one downfall to embossing on a watercolor background is that you cannot see the Versamark. You know, usually when you stamp Versamark onto something, you can kind of see an outline of where it is, but with the watercolor, you can't see it at all. And don't expect to get like a perfect embossing on this paper because it is watercolor and it is very textured, so you're not going to get a perfect impression. It'll come pretty close if you use some detail embossing powder, but like I said, it's when you're stamping on a porous surface or trying to emboss on a porous surface, it's not going to be perfect, which I'm okay with because I still think it looks awesome. So as you can see here, I'm just taking, there's some outline sequins and some solid sequins in 3 different sizes of each. And I'm just kind of filling in. I kind of want the gems to go like up and off the right side of the paper, kind of above the sentiment. So that's what I'm creating there. And I'm sorry, my camera was slightly off when I was filming this, so the bottom of my work gets a little bit cut off and here and there in the video, and I apologize for that. I guess I wasn't looking up at the right angle. So I'm going to go ahead and heat set all of this, and I think it looks really cool, and it's a nice one-dimensional, you know, kind of one layer card really. We're going to put this onto a card base, but there's not too much bulk, really easy to mail, and I think it's a lot of fun for any kind of occasion. So we're going to put that aside and work on the blue background here. So I'm just going to, again, make sure that it's nice and dry because we don't want embossing powder sticking everywhere. And if you're worried that it's not dry, you can always do a test and just dump some embossing powder over it. And if it sticks anywhere, then it's not dry. So you want to make sure it's nice and dry before you start trying to do that. So I'm going to take our little friend here, Stinky Skunk, and I'm going to do all white embossing powder on this one, and it's going to end up looking really cool. I love the way it turned out. And we're going to stamp him in Versamark, and then I use the Wow Opaque Bright Detail Embossing Powder. I think it's a long name, but I find that some embossing powders can tend towards the yellow side a little bit when they're heat set, and this one stays nice and bright white, so I love it. I'm going to be also using this Speech Bubbles stamp set, and I like that this has a nice bold outline to it, and the skunk does also, and I think it balances well on the card because there's not a whole lot going on with this. It's pretty much just the background and a little bit of embossing. And then inside of the speech bubble, I'm going to use some different sentiments. I'm going to use the So Stinkin', which is from the same stamp set as the skunk. And then I'm going to use the word proud from the emotions stamp set. And I intended for this to be like a graduation card. And I was going to use, in just the basics, there's a stamp that says happy graduation. And I tried to think about where to put it on the front of this card, but I just didn't have room. So I'm going to stamp that on the inside of the card. So that's one thing that's really great about these word stamp sets. There are 2 of them right now in the Sweet Stamp shop, the emotions and the just the basics, is that you can also use them on the inside of cards as well, aside from using them in the speech bubbles, and there's just tons of different ways. But I kind of talked over it here, but I did stamp and emboss the proud, but it ran together too much. Like you couldn't read it, so I just wiped it off and stamped it in VersaFine black onyx ink, and then I stamped a little heart down in the bottom right-hand corner to have just another little touch of black on this, so it didn't, you know, look all by itself. So now I'm probably just putting my stamps away. Oh, I'm thinking about putting the happy graduation. That's what it is. And you'll see I kind of fiddle with it a little bit, and then I decide that it'd just be better off on the inside of the card. So I'm going to take some cardstock. I'm using I have it right here. It's the Basil cardstock in Candy Necklace. I love this color. It's like a aqua teal color, and it's nice and thick weight cardstock. I'm not sure the weight of it, but it's really nice. And then I'm also using some Paper Source cardstock in this kind of fuchsia color. Now I'm showing you this adhesive because it's important to note that I'm using the Tombow Extreme Permanent Adhesive because it's very, very strong. And since that watercolor paper is just a tiny bit warped, you need something that's nice and strong. I don't have an ATG gun, so I don't know if that adhesive would work. It probably would. I prefer the smaller adhesive rolls, but this one I got purposely to use on like watercolor paper and things like that I need to make sure are extra stuck down. So that's what I did with both of them. And here are the finished cards. I'm going to show you real quick. And here are all the stamp sets that I used. This is the Sparkle and Shine. We use this on the pink card. And then the next 3, Stinky Skunk, Speech Bubbles, and Emotions, we used on the blue card. So here are some close-up shots of the 2 cards finished. I hope you have enjoyed this video and that you check out the Peerless watercolors and see how you can use them with your sweet stamp shops. Make sure to check out the store as we have a lot of things in stock and we have a big release day coming tomorrow. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you all real soon. Bye.